Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val, where we will bring you candid conversation. In each conversation, we will talk about real life ups and downs while tackling unresolved matters. We will also unmask issues and truly speak straightforward and candid about our needs and brokenness. So let's get to it. Hey, this is your host, Val. We have hit a milestone, 50 podcasts. Thank you guys so much. 50, that means that you guys have really stuck around. We have hit so many milestones. We are growing like crazy on social medias, all of the platforms. But most of all, we're just growing. The Carter crew is just so proud to have you guys. It's time for us to take a break so that we can get new content and come back even better. Thank you so much. We love you guys and see you soon. Hello, welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val. Today is going to be a very special podcast. It is personal and dear to my heart. I have Dr. Bourque here with me, and she is you guys have seen her, she's a friend of the Love and Victory Show with Val podcast. And my heart is a little heavy this morning, but I am going to get free today because we're going to talk it's the first day of Black History Month. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about some things that we really got to get together and make a change. And so today the show title is Stereotypes in Healthcare. I have a doctor on today, and so I feel very comfortable with Dr. Bourque going there. We talk honestly about the difference in healthcare and how people of color are treated, having someone out there. And I'm not trying to do a blanket statement when I say this, so please understand I am putting a disclaimer in here before we even get started. I am not speaking against all doctors. I am not speaking against all healthcare facilities, doctors' offices, whether hospitals. I am speaking against those that are servicing and that go to school and take the oath to treat patients, and that they know that they're not treating all patients with the same level of care. So because something happened to me and it's so dear to my heart, I got to experience what people have been talking about for a very long time. I got to experience someone or my son not getting the level of care that he deserves as a human being. So, Dr. Bourque, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val podcast.
Thank you for having me.
How many times have you been on now?
Oh, man. I think this is number 3 or 4.
I know. And why I brought Dr. Bourque back and why I feel so great about having her here. She is one that is willing to go there, be open, be candid, and really, really, she cares about patients. She cares about patients of all walks of life. And she happens to be an African-American woman that is also a mother. And it's so funny how this podcast was already scheduled and we're going to go in one direction. And my experience is taking us in another. So I ask that you guys grab a cup of coffee or wine. I don't know what time of day it is that you're listening to this podcast. I want you to come into the room with us today. Mm-hmm. Dr. Bourque, tell them a little bit about yourself and why is stereotypes in healthcare important to you?
Well, thank you again for having me. Mm-hmm. And I am a pelvic floor physical therapist here in Houston. Have a practice in the Heights called Awareness Pelvic Health. And I treat people with various types of pelvic pain, perinatal care, which is anything on or around birth, and pain with intercourse, and various types of pain that a lot of people already have a very difficult time either communicating to their provider about. They don't necessarily know how to explain what's going on with them, and it falls very much in line with Black mortality during pregnancy, and so that's one element. Just stereotypes in healthcare and a space that needs to be changed, and so. Although the circumstances with your son, were not necessarily pregnancy related, the similarity in that is that Many times in healthcare, Black individuals, people of color, people that speak different languages than us, than English, have a challenge with being heard, listened to, and having some sort of testing, or it's just dismissed.
It's dismissed, yes. Well, I want to start this podcast off, and I've spoken with my son, and Dr. Bourque also heard that she was able to hear that he gave us total permission to talk about my experience, his experience. And actually, I want to, we're not going to be long, but I don't know, we might, I don't know. But I do want to be very, very clear that the healthcare industry as a whole have to do better. I'm going to give you guys a little story of my experience and what has happened with my son over the last few days. My son has been going back and forth to the hospital and to doctors complaining of chest pains and his chest tightening up on him. And he's basically been sent home. This has been going on for over probably about 4 to 6 weeks, and going into the doctor, going into the hospital, and they basically said, oh, it's just probably a little inflammation, told him what he can take over the counter, sent him home. It progressively the pain got worse. It wasn't something that was happening all the time. It was coming in episodes. And he kept trying to just keep going. And then finally, 2 weeks ago, he goes back into this particular hospital and emergency room, and they sent him home. And this past Sunday, he calls me. The pain is so bad, he can't even, he just can't breathe, he can't walk, can't do anything. And I recommended that he call 911. He didn't. All he wanted to do was just get to his mom's house and just come and eat some gumbo. He felt like he would feel better if he just got to mom. Well, we all know about getting to mom. When we're hurting and when we're uncomfortable, we just know that mom will make it better. And if I get a little emotional, guys, please bear with me because this part was so heavy for me. So he didn't drive. I told him to call 911, and he said, no, I'm just going to come. So he drives himself and what I thought was to my house, but it got so bad for him, he drove himself directly to the ER. Why should it take that? So he drives himself into the ER. They immediately, they check him out. They did a basic line EKG, tell him what's going on. He was just in the hospital, the ER, a week before. So they're looking as, maybe he's just, you're in healthcare. They're probably looking like maybe he's a pain seeker. Maybe he's looking for pain medicine or something. I don't want to speak for them, but I think that that's kind of what it gave off. So finally, they do a series of battery of tests. I asked, and they say to him that we're going to run some lab work on you. Your EKG looks fine. They leave him sitting in the waiting area. Hour or so, 2 hours pass. He's still in the waiting area, hour or so. They do the lab work. They come back. My son's levels are, what is that called? Troponin?
Troponin levels?
Troponin levels. I think there is a baseline, and I'm just going to kind of say that. The baseline is probably like, maybe about 60, 30 or normal range.
Honestly, the range escapes me because I'm not generally looking at troponin levels, but historically speaking, there's levels where it shows that there's been some level of damage to the heart.
To the heart, yes.
And that's when those go up or down.
Well, his was up, and without giving a full battery of his, so it was up to almost 1,000, which is completely out of the range. 3 hours later, so I come on over, they bring him back, they put him in a room, in the emergency room, they take another assessment, it's continuing to go up. They then go on, and I'm giving you guys the backstory so you can really understand how severe this is, and really having someone to advocate for you on your behalf. And it goes up even more. They decide that they're going to keep him in because now it's over 10,000. That's all I'm going to say. And I've been in healthcare on the administrative side for over 30 years. So I've seen the dark side. I've seen the good side. I've seen some great doctors, and I've seen some not so good caring doctors. And I also have I am a consultant. So I want to put that disclaimer. I still work with quite a few doctors. My reason for staying in this field, because I truly believe in our physicians. I truly believe I love healthcare, but I also know that I'm here to be an advocate for the patients as well as for the physicians. So this is in no way me bashing physicians or any entity. So I'm going to turn right there, and I've kind of given the story of my son. Well, actually, I think I need to say a little more. What you think? They then went on. We saw the doctor. The doctor comes. They kept him in overnight. The doctor comes in that next morning into his room, and the doctor is not even making contact. He's standing off to the corner. My son is in the bed. I'm sitting over on the sofa, and he is at a distance from us. He's sprouting off questions to my son as if he's not even a human being or someone that he even cared to be in the room with. And then he asked a basic question, which was a real question to ask. Does heart attacks, anyone in the family, does heart issues run in the family? And I asked him, are you talking to me or are you talking to the patient? And he says, well, I just want the answer. So it was still very cold and uncaring, and he had removed himself from even caring about.
With the distance.
Yes, with the distance. So I said to him, yes, my father. And he says, well, when was he diagnosed? What was the age? It was just real matter of fact, no caring. And I said, oh, probably at 55. Well, we know this is unrelated to what's going on with your son. At that point, I said, well, are we going to go in and take a look at him because his numbers are continuing to go up? The doctor said, no, I don't think that's necessary. And it's called what is it called? The
calf?
Put a catheter in. Yes, so that they can see what's going on. He said he didn't think it was necessary. So I kept pressing as a mother. And I do want to make sure I'm not saying that I have any medical experience to speak or even try and take anything away from the doctor, because he is the expert, or he should be the expert in this.
Like
but
for the diagnosis.
For the diagnosis part of it. But as a mother and in my gut instinct, I knew that I had to do what I had to do for my child. And so he finally said, because I kept pressing, we need to get this done. The doctor says back to me, and that blew me away. He said, why? He said, I don't recommend it. He said, but I said, well, what time can we get him in? And he says, well, I don't know, because we have patients that I have scheduled for outpatient. We have other patients coming in. It'll be sometime this evening. When I tell you guys, it felt as if he had still made no connection with my son, even after he didn't even realize, which I can say, and I mean allegedly, that he didn't even read my son's chart. Because had he read my son's chart, it would have been clear to him to see that his numbers are going up. Thank God for the nurse that was in there. She was excellent. And she did speak up and advocate for my son, letting him know that, yes, his numbers had went up. So, again, there are good professionals that are doing what they're supposed to be doing right for the patient. And then there are some in here that are just collecting a check. And I get it. Some of them are burnt out. And those of you that are burnt out, those of you that have stopped caring, those of you that forgot about your oath, please get out before you end up killing someone or letting someone die. my son, we went through it. My son had 90% blockage. We found the doctor had to share with me after the catheter was, what is it called?
Catheterization.
Catheterization was done.
Cardiac cath.
Cardiac cath. He had 90% blockage. My son is 37 years old, and because he was not at your typical age, the doctor, I want to say allegedly, appeared to not feel the need to go any further. And my question is, what would he have done, or what would he have wanted to be done if it was his son that was laying on there? Would he have ran every possible test? Would he have turned over every stone to figure out what was going on? Or would he have just kept the basic
status quo, like
Yes.
just, oh, he's 37 and just dismiss it? I doubt that he would have just dismissed it. I don't think any parent would just dismiss if their child, I know, I mean, my children are young, and even my daughter the other day was like, my knee keeps hurting. And she's 5. And,
Yes.
And I was like, it's probably growing pains, but we're going to go get this checked out.
Yes,
Right? 'Cause
yes.
That's what
It's not in your head.
Yeah.
It's a reason you keep saying this.
Exactly.
And I think, and Dr. Bourque and to the Carter crew here, I want us to think about this. I want to know why is there a different level of care for people of color? And I have to say this. He didn't see my son's pain. He didn't put himself in the bed with him. That could be him. He didn't have any empathy for him at all. I've heard and I hear people talking about there's a different level of care for people of color and their health care.
There's research that supports it too.
And I'm going to turn to you.
Yeah. I don't have, numbers, obviously, because we were going to go in a different direction before this unfortunate situation. But, research does support that there is a substantial difference in just the perception of pain when it comes to people of color, Black people specifically.
Let's just go there. African American, Black
yes.
people specifically,
Yeah.
because they think that we are seeking. First of all, I'm just going to have to say this. I think that they don't see us when we are complaining of pain.
Correct. That's when it
think-
comes to pain specifically.
Yes, they think that we're just either seeking something or why. I mean,
It couldn't be that bad.
It couldn't be that bad. And for me, I think it goes back to slavery time. When we were misused, especially females and males, we were misused, and so our pain didn't matter. We couldn't complain. Can you go there and bring me back?
Yeah, historically speaking, Black people weren't, way back in slavery days. Obviously, you have people that were beaten in such a heinous way, and then expected to get up and keep moving
And go to work.
Yes,
Go work in the field.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
yeah. And so that mentality, I think, has kind of just continued on within American culture when it comes to healthcare. And unfortunately, it's taken the lives of so many Black people.
It's unreal.
You hear time and time again, people go to the ER, they've gone multiple times.
Yes.
And there hasn't been any kind of intervention performed, or it's just dismissed as it's just inflammation. It's not that big of a
And
deal.
that's
Without any tests even being done
no
to
tests.
confirm that
6
process.
weeks
So-
of going back and forth. And I did leave this piece out, and I have a few questions that I really want to ask you specifically. After the procedure, and he had to come out, mind you, I said to you guys in the beginning, he was standing back in a corner, not even coming close to us.
Oh, yeah.
After the procedure, I'm sitting in the waiting room in the chair. This physician comes out and kneels down next to me to share with me that my son, to share with me in an attempt to show empathy, I would want to believe, allegedly, that my son had 90% blockage. Now you have empathy for my son. I wonder what would have happened if I wouldn't have been pushing for my son's care.
It's the advocacy. Like if it's not there, what happens?
What happened?
Not everybody goes to the hospital with someone that like their family.
Yes.
Have friends that are just going to be like, no, let's not dismiss this.
Yes.
We all know that whenever people are in the hospital, they're already very vulnerable. And so sometimes they're not going to push the envelope if somebody says, no, that's not necessary, and maybe not be able to advocate for themselves because maybe they're not even in the right state of mind.
They're not in the right, they're in pain.
Exactly.
They're hurting. They're not thinking, and they're trusting the health professionals are there advocating for them. All they know is they want to feel better.
Exactly.
They just want to feel better. And so today I'm grateful, as my son said, he said, I'm a testimony. You can talk about it. He said, I'm still here.
Exactly.
You know, and so today this is not doom and gloom, but I want you guys to know that I am taking this fight to the streets. I am going to do everything that I can as a human being the rest of my life to bring awareness to this. You guys are going to say she's on her soapbox. But today
would say that.
Today I could be planning a funeral, and the hardest thing for me is to say that as a mother. But had my son went into the emergency room by himself and not have anyone there advocating, and they send him back home. Just imagine 10%. Can you break that down? He's 90% blockage. What's happening with that heart at that time?
And again, disclaimer, I'm not a physician. I do have a history of working as an EKG tech and in cardiac rehab. And so one thing that happens if you envision a straw, like our arteries are basically straws. And so, well, not really straws, but hollow in the inside with the intention of blood to flow through. And whenever there's blockage, that typically means that there's some level of plaque or buildup that's filled that straw. So if you can envision like a shake inside of a straw, like it's just kind of thick and full. And when they say there's 90% blockage, it means that there's just a very narrow space for blood to flow to another region. In the heart, that's usually heart attack. In the brain, that's usually a stroke. So when that obviously a very life-threatening circumstance, when they do a catheterization, they're looking at the level of it, and that's the test that you would use to see, you know, very specifically where it is and how much it is. And the good news about a catheterization is they can do something right then and there, like a stent.
And that's exactly what they did. Thank God for that. Because he did. And I want to go back to something else that just came to my mind. He was, when I kept pressing to him about doing the catheterization, he kept saying to me, as if he was trying to convince my son not to do it, well, you have a lot of it's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't, because, and he went on to say that, you know, the possibility of death, you know, you give all of the risk in doing that. And again, the mama bear in me had to say to him, well, that's with any procedure. Anytime there is a risk with that. But there is more of a risk if we don't.
If we don't look into anything.
Yes. And so I know that I irritated the heck out of him, but I don't regret it at all.
Good for you.
So
I mean,
what I'm hearing you say and what you're saying to them, that it was, just imagine having a straw and they're drinking a milkshake and blood is trying to, because or the milkshake is frozen.
Yeah, the milkshake is basically like plaque.
Like plaque. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And blood is like trying to go through
space, through like a corner of that straw that doesn't have milkshake or plaque in it.
And it's trying to get air. So what is happening when, and now we know he had 90% blockage. What is happening to the individual? So they're struggling to breathe. They're in a lot of pain. What's going on? Based on your knowledge.
Yeah, based on my knowledge, I'm going to keep it on the heart.
Yes, that's your experience.
that's where, I mean, I have history in stroke rehabilitation and cardiac rehabilitation, but with a heart, the heart doesn't necessarily, it's a little different because it's there, but it gives like a different circumstance depending on the person. It could be short of breath. It could be chest tightness. The heart itself doesn't ache, but it kind of gives residual symptoms.
He
in
was
your
complaining
body.
of his arms. He was,
aching.
his chest is just all on one. Yeah,
Shortness of breath. It doesn't go away. It usually happens with exertion.
Wanting to throw up.
Yes,
Vomiting.
People get indigestion type of a sensation. Some people get the sensation in their back, in their jaw, because of the nerve pathway, and just kind of how the brain communicates pain to the heart. That's usually the mechanism that it does. Wow. So it's really important for people, and this it wasn't necessarily the reason for this, but it's really important for people to know the signs and symptoms of a heart attack or a transient ischemic attack, which is basically like a micro heart attack, where the blood is not getting to where it needs to. And also with a stroke, because the stroke, the brain doesn't tell you, I am hurting. The way it does it is because there's different areas of our brain that does different things. It's kind of like a roadmap, and this part might belong to your arm, and this part might belong to your speech, and so it's important to know that if that kind of a blockage happens in the brain, sometimes you'll see things like, oh, my vision was double, or my arm feels very heavy and I can't move it. It's not as strong as it normally is, or I'm stumbling, balance differences. I don't understand. I can't get the words out. Slurring a little bit. Okay. Facial droop.
You have to pay attention.
Oh yeah. I mean, hearing loss. I mean, it just depends on the area of the brain that's impacted. So it's a little bit more discreet, and most people wouldn't be able to pick up on it. But the biggest thing is making sure that you advocate for yourself and have people there that can advocate for you. Don't be like, no, I'm going to go by myself. Yeah. Take somebody with you. We're post-COVID. Yes. We can have people in the hospital again. Right. Take somebody with you that has your best interests at heart.
I think that's so important. Do you think people make assumptions about you based off of your gender, race, or age?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
I mean, even as a healthcare provider, I cannot tell you how many times I have been walking into a room to treat someone, and they're like, well, I'm waiting on the doctor, or can you pass me that? Or which, again, we're all caregivers, so we should be able to pass something to somebody else.
But the fact that you just automatically assume that I have to be the assistant versus the provider.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And or get questioned about, like, how long have you been doing this?
Immediately.
Where did you go to school?
Where did you go to school at? So it's do you experience that as a provider, even sometime with your own colleagues?
I can. Okay. I have in the past, but not
your
not my
current
my circle, right? But even other providers that I might run into.
Yes,
they might be
exactly.
Like, oh wow,
wow, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
The surprise.
Oh, you're a doctor?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah. Okay, and so therefore, my asking that question, I'm bringing that a little along the line of patients. Do you honestly think, from your perspective, that they're making assumptions of a patient's care and their needs based off of their race and their color?
Yes, and not just race, color, socioeconomic status.
So when someone walks in the room to the hospital or to a doctor's office, they may not have health care coverage, or they may be under a coverage that doesn't pay very well. Yeah. Do you think that they're treated differently?
Unfortunately, I think that there's a big likelihood that even on the flip side, if somebody comes in and they do have the opposite, they have more financial ability
to pay cash.
Oh yeah,
they get a whole level of different of care.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be that way. I think no matter who you're caring for, you should. I mean, coming from, first generation, American. My parents are from Sierra Leone, West Africa, and they have an accent, and they think there's some circumstances where an accent means like you must not know.
You must not know. So you assume right away you're beneath.
Yeah. And it's just, it needs to change.
Okay.
I actually have a statistic that I brought up
Thank you.
while we were here.
Okay,
it's actually about pregnant women.
Yes,
okay, great. Thank you for going there.
That's what I wanted to make sure I looked
Yes.
up.
And this is from the CDC, so it's a credible source. According to the CDC, this study was taken between the years of 2006 to 2016. About 700 women die each year due to pregnancy results or complications, and Native Americans and Black women are 2 to 3 times more likely.
Yeah.
And they're one of the smallest percentages of all the women in the
And
US.
is that because of their race? And again,
100%.
Okay.
I mean, Black mortality. I mean, even within the last year, I can't tell you how many Black women have passed away after birth, because they're like, something's wrong, and they're not taken seriously. There's so many people that are switching gears from going to the hospital for care. I mean,
to having care
to
at
having
home?
birth at home births, birthing with midwives and doulas, because number one, it has been medicalized so much, and you have to have a C-section. Even myself, I had one C-section, and
they want you to continue to have C-section.
Yeah, and I had to advocate for myself. I'm like, no, hold on a second. My what do you call that? The likelihood of me having one is 1% to have a uterine rupture, which is basically like a tear of the uterus.
Yes,
is 1%.
But they automatically
wanted you to have another C-section. I had to advocate to have 2 VBACs for my second ones because it was unnecessary. I didn't find it necessary, and yes, there's a risk, as you said,
it's
with
so
everything.
funny that you say that, because there is someone else, and of course I don't have permission to speak on this, but I know that this individual had one C-section the first time, and then the second time the doctor not just recommended that she have a C-section, basically said she needed you have to have a C-section. There was no reason for it. She was normal pregnancy. Everything was fine. Was nothing. So of course she went with what her doctors said. The third time that she got pregnant, they said the same thing, but she had someone going to the doctor with her differently. And they said, no, they're not going to do it. Well, the doctor said, I want to be able to schedule you so I can do it. So again, it was about his schedule and his need and not the patient. And so this person advocated for this individual. And what happened? She had a normal pregnancy. Yes. And it's just, why?
C-section rates right now. I don't know if you can get that.
Yeah, can we get that? What is the C-section rate?
I think it's like 60%. It's something astronomical. And yes, let's be thankful that medicine has been able to progress and evolve so that people have options and can save the life of both the mother and the child in circumstances.
But it also goes into sterilization, wanting African American women to have hysterectomies. And I have to go there.
Because I see women who have an endometriosis, uterine fibroids.
And the first thing they say,
we got to take that out.
Yes.
We're just going to have to get a hysterectomy. Oh, what is it? Hope I stay here in Texas.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you for getting that out. 35 to 38% in Texas. This is what the national...
Say that again, 35. What are we talking about
CDC.
here?
This is cesarean delivery rate in the U.S.
35?
In Texas here.
Percent of African American?
No, just
women in general.
Yes.
Wow. Again, that's just how you see a woman.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see it. And I have to wonder, and I have some very good friends that are physicians that are OB-GYN doctors. And so they know my heart. They know me, so they know that I'm not here trying to slam all doctors. But do you think that there are some doctors out there that recommend hysterectomies, so it's also a scheduling issue too.
I mean, I think that as professionals and providers, I think that the ability to look at the conservative option first is not as prevalent as it should be. I mean, me as a pelvic PT, I treat people for pelvic pain. And who's to say that the reason for someone's endometrial pain is solely the endometrial tissue? It could very well be also the pelvic floor muscles being too restricted and causing extra inflammation and tension on the nerves in that region.
Oh, wow.
And so they don't necessarily ever refer. Most of my patients come from off the street. They just Googled it, and they've seen at least 6 providers beforehand for various pelvic pain.
So could it be scar tissue that's there?
Oh, for sure.
For sure. And so
I mean, I don't want to say like certain 100%.
I know what you're
didn't
saying,
diagnose it.
but most of the time it is scar tissue.
Yeah, well, because endometriosis is basically like when the endometrial tissue, which is the tissue that lives inside the uterus, starts to be found in different areas within the pelvis or the abdomen. I mean, you can find endometrial tissue even in your chest cavity.
Wow.
So
it just attaches in different.
It basically forms outside of the uterus, and then that causes bleeding and scarring, pain, obviously, and pain with intercourse. So many different things, but women are not given, just stereotypes in healthcare. We're talking stereotypes against Black individuals, stereotypes against people of color. Different languages.
We have to put that in there.
Socioeconomic status. Yes. I mean, it goes across the gamut, and we need to do better as a society to provide quality, optimal care. If it was your mother, if it was your sister, if it was your son, if it was you, what would you do differently?
I think this has been a great, and I haven't really, we can't even dive in this long enough. But I think what I would like to do, and I would love for our audience, the Carter crew, and all of the new listeners to give us your feedback. But I think I want to do something different because I want to do another podcast, but I want to stream, and I want to bring in some people that have experienced discrimination in healthcare. I want to bring in you. Of course, you'll be back. I want to bring in other physicians, and I do want to bring in physicians. I don't want this to just be African Americans or Black physicians against Caucasian physicians. I want us to talk. I want us to have a real conversation because it's impacting people, and the only way we can change this is have a conversation. Yeah. So, would you be on for this?
Yeah.
So, I think what I would like for us to do, I would like for us to, Abigail, if you could, I want to do a stream.
Okay.
And
radio show?
I haven't really, I know you're going to work that out, but I want to do a stream. I want to bring in virtually others that have experienced if we can't bring them into the studio. Or maybe we'll do it in the radio. We can do a radio, but I need to do this sooner than later, and I need to do it this month. I know our radio is packed for the month already, but I need to do this. It's so important. And it's so dear. Before I end this conversation, I'm going to throw one more question at you. What do you think about white physicians? What do you think white physicians can do to avoid these issues?
And just as we talk about, discrimination, recognizing that it exists. We can recognize research when it has to do with evidence. Across the board, science, we value evidence. And there's evidence to demonstrate the disproportionate discrimination that occurs in healthcare to Black people, discrimination that occurs with people that have different socioeconomic status, people that are from foreign countries. We have to recognize it first and take a pause. And just like if we're asking police officers to take a pause, in society when they're, approaching someone that is of color. Take a pause in the hospital settings and just be like, check your biases. 'Cause
Yes,
we all have
them.
biases.
Yes.
When we walk into a space, you have to check your bias to see and take ownership on that and be part of the solution, not another individual that's part of the problem. Because these are lives we're taking care of. These are humans. These are people's family members. They're human beings, and we took an oath to care and do no harm. And sometimes doing no harm is to step back. We're in a stage of burnout post-COVID.
Yes.
And it's so easy for us to just be like, I'm exhausted.
Yes.
I'm trying to get home. Whatever
I want to be
the
with
case
my
may be.
family. Yes.
Yeah. They are trying to do the same thing.
Yes, they are too. Wow. As y'all can see, this has been a fantastic show. I did a lot more talking than my guests, and 101 and podcasts, you shouldn't. But as I said to Dr. Bourque, thank you for being here. But this is personal for me, and it's very, very raw. It just happened. And at the same time, I am grateful to God. There is a God. Without God, my son would not have been here today. I thank God. And hey, just remember, you have to advocate for yourself. And don't be afraid, even if you don't know, even if you're not comfortable and you know that you're not getting the answer. Bring someone else in. Get you a loudmouth. Get you someone that be respectful. Just know that advocating for yourself does not mean you have to act a fool, but that means you have sometimes you may have to stand up and stand on a desk, exert your authority when it comes to your health care. I love you, and until next time.